and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of Stop, Look, and Listen. I'm your host, LeTroy Gardner. This week, we have a very special guest. We have the owner of Synergy Training Solutions, a community leader, and the author of Black Tech, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. We have Miss Theresa Merritt Watson. Welcome to the show, Teresa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Let's delve into what inspired you to write Black Tech Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow: Leadership
Well, as you
in
see,
Technology.
as you go around and I've worked with students all my entire life, from tutoring to the various needs that students have, been a liaison for the African American community. But as I kept working with them, one of the things you see missing is that they don't know anything. Don't it? You didn't see that they knew much about what their contribution have been in the development of this country. And so you see it repeatedly, and so you decide that something has to be done as it relates to that. There are books in the library, but are they getting to them? Are they understanding and seeing what we are big contributors to the development of this country in so many ways. And I figured that if the parent, and I put a lot on the parents, but if the parent will allow their kids to make sure that their kids go to school or leave out their house, knowing that they are part of the development of this country, it installs a sense of pride, sense of ownership, and it also sends a message to the other people that are non-African American, what our contribution have been. And so you start viewing people different. And then I don't know the researcher's name offhand right now, but as people look into it, when you part of a system, you start taking ownership of that. And I use the analogy. I have 6 kids. And so when we sit at the table and have dinner, what you will see, everybody's engaged. But if one felt out of place or felt like you didn't make them part of the system, then they start pulling away and thinking, okay, well, I don't have value. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot of things. And then you continue to see the prison pipeline. And the prison pipelines, people start looking at that between third and fourth grade. Well, the problem with that is that you really need to take a look at if you can see it in third grade, you could have seen it in second grade and first grade. So the teachers in the higher, because it's harder to start teaching those deficiency skills when you in the higher grades. So correct them so you don't have to think about collecting data to see how many prisons you need to build for the anticipated amount of kids that will be going there. And so this is the one thing, and the people that's impacted by that the most is the African American community. So
Mm-hmm.
the book for me has probably more meaning than most than most people, because it's not just informing you about the different technology, but it's just to stop some of the negative things that's impacting our community.
Right. Yeah, I've had a few guests on the show of late, and one of them, Nathaniel Turner, he talked about how parents are the children's first teacher, and you should be reading to them while they're still in your womb, and like even throughout the first few months, like continuing to read and you know instill that discipline and the importance of education before they even step foot in a school system. So, what's your
Yes.
thoughts on that?
I will tell you a little story is that I like to read before my kids read a book, I like to read it first to make sure it's an okay book. So as I was doing that, I had one child that could read faster than me at a very young age. And so I said, well, if she wanted to read this book, I said, well, no, I got to read it first. And then she was like, how long is it going to take? This is an easy book. So, I've been reading ever since, ever since I was pregnant with her, and she's
Right.
still an avid reader.
Yeah. That's good. So, Black Tech is aimed at kids between grades 1 to 3. Why did you feel that was the perfect, well, the sweet spot for you as a
Well,
target audience?
first of all, the book is like a tabletop. You can pick it up and you can learn something. You can take something away with it. That was important to me, because when you pick up a fourth, or if I make it into a story, then people are more apt not to read it and not to glean something from it. And so, what I wanted to do is to make sure that whoever touched that book, they can take somebody away from them. So that's the way I chose that age. And then when you get that age, you need to start taking your knowledge and your skills and embracing your creativity, get exposure, because some kids, they have the technology in their phone, but the concept of creating is not necessarily holding a phone. That phone serves a purpose of, communicating. Can I look at this? Can I do this? But not in the to the degree that you see people doing different things, from refrigeration to mechanical engineering to tech to your phone. You don't get to see that. And I wanted the kids to see it at a younger age, so that they can start thinking about, because this uh, LeRoy, this is one of the key things about our kids, and all kids, but we're talking about African American kids right now. But every child has a passion or an interest, and it's whether you're able to nurture or bring touch bases with those interests that the children have. But this is an opportunity for the kids to embrace something and keep it moving. Because one of the things, I'm not going to say the teachers don't nurture, because teachers actually have a very tough job, particularly now. But
Hmm.
you have to nurture those things. And I think when parents get engaged in their kids' learning, it turns out in a different way. And because now you got the parents having an expectation, and they're able to nurture the child's interest. And so that's another avenue for me, that's important for the child.
Okay. Um, could you share some insights into your research process, and what did you uncover that was somewhat of a surprise? Like, this person invented this. I didn't know that. Like, what gems did you
Let's
uncover?
see. Well, it's not really big, but Duncan, I didn't know he invented the 3D glasses. I um I thought that was done once by someone else. And um the other one, it's not that I didn't know that he invented, but I'm always intrigued about it because of my other reading, and that is Alexander Miles. I just really am fascinated by the whole concept. It wasn't the exact reason that he created, but I can tell you, but in the day when we used to get on the elevator, there was a woman, generally a woman, opening and closing the door. And so there's been riots, there's been uh killings, people incarcerated for actually touching the woman, which is usually a white woman, in the open the elevator door. And when the elevator, when she balances it, it sort of have a joke to it, and the black man end up touching her, and then all of a sudden he's in court or he's dead. And so I'm always fascinated by learning more and more about that elevator and the damage that it has caused our people, until we got the automatic door opener. That's my most intriguing one. The
Uh huh.
one that I didn't know was the 3D glasses. I didn't know it was
Right.
him. I know that we invented him. I just was surprised it was him. He's still living. Um, he was from New York, so I think he just back and forth in New York.
Right. And what was the research process for you?
Well, the research process is that I have a list, and I keep a list actually of African American inventors, so I don't have to go back and research it. And then I go and research more about these people. And so I have a database, and I'll print up a lot of stuff about them, and then I will line them up and learn something about them. And I'd keep that going. So you take somebody like George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver has 300 peanut patents. But most people, if you ask most people what did George Washington Carver invent, the first thing they're going to say is peanut butter. And he actually didn't invent peanut butter. So, but that's what most people will say. Peanut butter was invented a long time before that. And then, the process for me is laying out the people, keeping the people in front of me. And, what I'm doing now is that I sort of try to stay abreast of the things that African Americans are doing right now, because we can find something from 1970 back a lot easier than we can find from 1971 forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so my process is constantly, when I see it, I have the information and I just keep adding to my list, and then I group the list. It's like a coding process. And then I put them in like a theme. All the sciences are together, all the literature, all the music, everybody is together. And when I want to pour from that, and when I want to know more about the individual, I have a little star and a little marker for indicators that I don't know this person. Let me see what they've done. And, I have a lot of tracking indicators for my notes. And when I get ready to write, I'll pick them out on my computer because I have so many. I pick them out, I lay them out, I print them out, and then I start writing.
So you can easily go to like volume 5 or 6 with this.
I could. The tech actually is the one I could literally go to volume 5 or 6, but
Right.
I'm doing science next.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned moments ago about being easy to find inventors pre 1971 compared to post 1971. Why do you think that is? Do you think kids nowadays they're not taught to come up with something new, or just kind of follow what is already there? Why do you think that's the case?
Well, I think we're still inventing. First of all, I think we're still inventing, but we have hit a place in society where we can show that whatever the African American invent, they do it very well, and sometimes there are stop gaps to slow process to not send that message out there just yet. And so, as one of the Department of HUD, I believe he was, that says that if you want something that black people were not, if you want black people not to know something, put it in a book for them to read, something
Right.
to that effect. And so what's happening, I think we're definitely still inventing things. But we're not pushing our own agenda. We're not embracing the great things that black people are doing. So it's not showing up like it used to be. It's not showing up. We had to, even the information we have, a lot of times that information was not written until much later. George Washington Carver, his patents are listed, but we didn't know that. Then we find out, like you take Lewis Latimer, he was an apprentice for a long time. And so we don't even know what he really truly invented other than the filament and a few other things, because you didn't necessarily get credit for it. Now you get credit for some of the things, or some of our people have signed notes with their company of not being able to get credit for. So I don't think it's not that we're not inventing, we're just not embracing. We have taken on other people agenda and not our own, which tend to keep us sort of off balance. Like, we have an educational, economic issues. These are major issues in our community, but we can take another organization interest, and we would jump on the bandwagon for their interest while our interest is still falling apart. And so you don't see the importance and the growth in our community, because now we got the massive on the other side fighting with them on And things like, I think when you come down to like human rights, things like that, if everybody was truly into equality, they would focus on human rights, and then you could focus. We ourselves would be shining more because now we're in the pool with truly with everybody. But now we get to pick out this little segment, and that's why you cannot get into balance. Because and then when you're picking out those segments, you're dragging the black people in with you, even knowing that we got these educational and economic issues over here, and those are
Hmm.
major issues that can stop your growth and our kids' growth, and the way people perceive us, and the way we perceive ourselves, which is the most important. And we can't, it's like North Carolina Central, but you know where that is, right?
I do. I certainly do.
And so for a long time, North Carolina Central, and I don't know about now, but for a long period of time, they had a very high score in people passing the bar on the first time and passing the nursing exam. Neither one of those I could pass, but passing the nursing exam. But you never heard about the success of those schools, you see. But you will have people fight to go to UNC Chapel Hill, to that school, when there was a period that Central was doing better. You see what I mean? And so
Hmm.
we won't promote our own things, and we struggle with that. And so I think when we get past that whole notion that other people ice water is colder than ours, we'd be okay. But we
Yeah.
can't fight. We can't keep fighting. We cannot continue to fight other people battle when our would and leave our stuff alone to let us keep going down. Our kids are suffering right now. They're making provisions and concessions for our kids to finish high school. They're making concessions and for our kids not to. I was on a program where we had when the students did something at school outside of murder and rape, they would go to a different court, and so that wasn't a bad idea. I didn't think, but the thing about it is that once they left the court, there was no system to make sure whatever they did was not repeated. You didn't work with the parents. You didn't do those kind of services to see, because a lot of the things that transpiring with the African American boys and the girls too, but the boys more so. And I think more boys go to prison than girls. I don't know that
Yeah.
to be true, but I believe that.
Dr. Todd McClain provides periodontal and dental implant services in 2 convenient locations. They offer over a decade of experience treating patients, and appointments can even be scheduled in the evenings, weekends, or early mornings. Give them a call in Chapel Hill at 919-537-9774 or in Durham at 919-484-8338, or visit them online at gumsandimplants.org.
All right. So, representation in literature is crucial for fostering a sense of belonging and identity. How do you think Black tech contributes to that representation in children's literature and education materials?
Well, as you notice that they give you a couple of sentences and a couple of some just basic information about the individual. This goal here is to give you enough for you to identify with the individual, and you will go and research that different literature, different information to learn more about that person. Even down, you take Alice Parker. I don't think I think I have her picture. When you see Alice Parker, you see the configuration that she drew in for her patent, which it was a gas furnace. And I'd like for the African American population, particularly, to be able to go and grasp that. You will have developed some good writing skills if you if you decide to do if you decide to expound on it. But it's not only just that, it's when the teacher says, well, who will you do? I'm going to do Alice Parker. Well, Alice Parker is fascinating because she invented the gas furnace before she died at 25. She went to
Wow.
Howard University, died at 25, and she invented this gas furnace. So that tells you that she's been thinking and pondering over this for a long time. Just dealing with gas is not the simplest thing because everything has to flow in a proper way. And so what I'm saying now, when my kids, the students go to expound on any of these people in the book, one of the things you'll find is that it requires writing. So I'm looking for improvement in communication, improvement in the writing, the critical thinking. I'm looking for our kids to better learn how to transfer knowledge. These are things in this simple form. In this simple form that I've created will impact the students.
Okay. Wow. What challenges did you encounter
What
putting this
challenges?
together?
um, Keeping it in first person,
Uh-huh.
selecting the individual for the book, um, making sure that the student identified with it through the first person. Um, and the other challenge, one of the other challenge I would tell you, I didn't, as you see in the book, the one thing that I had is that I have, whether the person that I'm talking about went to HBCU, which is important to me, um, and if the person um, in HBCU, for your audience that do not know, is historically Black colleges and universities, and
I would hope all of my audience would know that.
but but that's not necessarily true because
Yeah.
I've done college fairs and things like that. I've been in school where the Black people had not heard of HBCUs, and people
Right.
find that hard to believe. Um, I mean, Cheney, I think Cheney is the first African American, the first HBCU. Okay,
Hmm.
and even some people in Philadelphia had not heard of HBCU. How you not heard of HBCU and it's right there in your state, you know?
Right.
So um, the other thing that was a real challenge for me is that kids do not internalize death, and so um, if you see in the book, I don't really say a person death date. What I say is that um, I will say he was born May 17th, lived until, I don't say dead, he died. I'd say he lived
Right.
until. And because you know, I wanted the kids to sort of embrace that in a different way. Death sounds
Hmm.
so final, which it is, to a degree. It depends on your religious beliefs, but anyway, to a degree. And so I that was just finding the right terminology, which I ponder over that so many times.
Yeah. Um, wow. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm in tech. Obviously there isn't a whole lot of us overall. Like I'll attend Afrotech and whatnot, but there's always conversations about like being a token hire versus being brought in because of your merit. Did you experience that when you were getting started in tech, or
Being a what now?
a token hire? They're trying to fulfill a quota.
You know, I will say, I would say no because um, I'm actually very skilled. So
Hmm.
and um, in you know, actually the area that I went into, I didn't know a whole lot about it, but I knew enough about it to get the job. And so I think I was as very skilled, and it was apparent a few weeks after that, and so nobody ever questioned my qualification. Um, and sometimes you have to position yourself where you know your job, and that's your job. Because people will challenge you. I'm not saying I never got challenged. I'm just saying, people will challenge you, and I don't know. I just felt like I stood my ground. I was actually good. I was the person to go to if there was a problem.
Hmm.
So, but I actually don't really miss that aspect of it. I knew that I was good at what I did. I did have a sick son, so there was occasion that I would have to take off and stay home for a while with him. And then I didn't, they would just call me back to work. So, I mean, I knew I was good at what I did. So I
Right.
know that people challenge that, but it didn't phase me one way or the other. This
Mm.
is your knowing who you are. When you go in, you're qualified for the job, you can do the job very well, and so you just know who you are. It's not a boasting or patting yourself on the back. That's just the way you enter life.
Right. Would you what what do you want kids that are reading black tech to take away from it?
I want them to take away I too, the things that I enjoy, the things that I have a passion for, I can design it, I can build it, I need the nurturing. If I need nurturing, find out where you can get it from. If you're like every family dynamic is not going to be there to nurture you. And this is
Hmm.
one of the reasons why I think teachers should understand that nurturing doesn't have to mean that I got to pick out everything that individual no, is interested in. And so I want the kids to be able to take that and embrace what they know and what they learn, and embrace reading the book over and over again, to the point where because they always on a computer. And so if you want to look up Gladys West, look at what she did, look at how she got started. And Jackson, her math skills were apparent when she was like 3 and 4 years old. How do you get that? And so I think that what I would love for them to take away from this is, when you feel like that, you is a sense of confidence, a sense of pride, um, and not pridefulness, but a sense of pride of what you have done, what your ancestors have done, and we're all connected in some way. And so, if my ancestors have created a wash machine, so have yours, because we all connected in some way.
Okay. What do you find most rewarding about this process, exploring black tech?
Well, I'm not sure about the process. The One of the most rewarding things for me, I actually do get a pleasure out of seeing people be successful. I get a pleasure out of seeing people grow. And, and so when someone walks up to me and says, I really like this. I really like this. I'm going to learn that. I actually get a pleasure out of those kind of things.
Hmm.
Um, and so where if you became the president through something that I did, I am happy for you.
Right.
I'm just because I think one of the things I will say to you is that there is so much strength in African Americans, but people don't see it. A lot of times they don't see it. They don't see it in themselves. And I think we have positioned ourselves to go through the motion. And when you're simply saying going through the motion, you get up every morning to go to school. You go to school for two reasons. A lot of kids go to school for two reasons: because their parents tell them, and because the government says they have to go.
Right.
And when there was a point in time where school was uh, purposeful. You looked forward to it. You went and you enjoyed learning. you know and so you enjoyed learning. So I remember we used to have spelling tests, and
Right.
the people that got all 10 right, we always end up with a treat. And so it was a goal. It wasn't that we were competing against each other. We just wanted to be good. Did you understand the syllable? Did you understand the relationship and all this kind of stuff? And then as you get older, you don't necessarily understand all things and that you're being taught. But in our school, the thing that stand out for me is when I was in second grade. I think it was when we started history. Uh, Miss Harrison, Miss Okadeka, Miss Howell, we were in segregated school, the real segregated school, not the one they have today, where you know. Um, but we had allocated history books, which actually depicted, and you've seen the books where Africans are just savages and things like that. That's the books that we had to use. But then they went out and got the books for us that was, had a city, had a government, had all these other features. And then you start thinking about why did they want us to see Africa in this way? So by the time I got to the seventh grade, it had to be seventh because it was junior high. We had Mr. Epson. He taught us geography. We had a choice of geography and history, and this is our second year of being integrated. And one of the things that he did is he showed a real map of Africa. He showed a real map, the map that they gave us to use. That was the first time I ever knew that the map sizes were different. So when you start seeing anything related to Black was on a smaller scale or a smaller frame. These things actually stayed with me. When I first went to college, I was actually going to be a history major, but some of the dynamics changed and I didn't.
Okay. Has any of the tech innovators or their family members, have they reached out to you and thanked you for profiling them or their loved ones?
Not yet. Not yet.
Okay, cool. All right, so what's next for you? Is there a plan of hosting a podcast and bringing an audio element to this story, or doing a documentary on Black inventors and tech? Like, what's next for you?
Well, what's really next is for me to finish school, right?
Yeah, that's definitely an immediate future.
But the other thing is the next thing I wanted to do is to learn how to partner where I can create real growth in our population. And I work with a program right now called 3Ps. It's passion, pursuit, and purpose. And so it nurture and show you how to about your passion and how to pursue it, and you eventually through this process you learn your purpose. Those things are crucial particularly for our kids that's graduating from high school. And the reason being is that a lot of times you're graduating with no purpose. What am I going to do after school? And so if you notice in the book, it has people that went to HBCUs, people that went to PWI, and people did not go to college or school. Frederick Jones and created the refrigerated trunk, and you see refrigeration in your grocery stores. You see refrigeration everywhere now. And he was a mechanical engineer, self-taught mechanical engineer. So was Alexander Miles. They created the elevator door open. It was and Lewis Latimer never went to school. He's recognized. See, when you go to foreign countries or anywhere out of interstate, you never think about a Black man turning on your light. The filament in that light bulb was created by Lewis Latimer, but you do not think about that. And what I'm trying to do is to get you to start thinking about the great things that we have done. And so when you have our kids finishing high school with no purpose, so the 3Ps will actually help them create what's enough for them to be able to set a tone and a pattern. They can reach total fulfillment. That's one of the other things that I would like to be able to marry my books with. The other thing is to be able to be impactful enough where the schools and teachers have us be able to go and share how can I nurture a child's passion or interest when I got 30 people in my class. Well, you do have 30 people in your class, but the fact of the matter is that when you're talking about the stars, or if you're talking about you don't really talk about circuit boards in it, but I'm going to use that as an analogy because it won't come. But if you're talking about something, some engineering component, refrigeration or things like that. All of us require some kind of math, and you can reference. Well, John, he loved refrigeration, and so he has to develop these math skills. It gives John the idea and notion that this is things that we have to do. So that's what I'm looking to do, to just be really impactful in our community through partnerships that we create. And because I'm doing the books, and I will work with the kids and their passion and their interest. And I have a lead to read where the African American Church will actually become partnered with Synergy Training Solutions, and their members will actually go out in the community, and their members will get African American children between the ages of 4 and 19, and that child will call them on the phone, since they all have a phone, and that child will call them on the phone once a week and read for 10 minutes. And we start our reading in our own community. In our own community, we can strengthen. I believe the deficiencies that we have in our community can be changed through us, through African Americans.
Okay, great. All right, so where can we find you on social media or your website, and
Well,
how can we get the book, Black
you can
Tech,
get the book
Yesterday,
from
Today, and Tomorrow?
synergytrainingsolutions.org, and you can get me by Ellerbee, that's ELLERBEE group.com, and that's my publicist. And you could go to Synergy Network LLC, that's my Instagram, and on YouTube, so you type in my name, Theresa Merritt Watson.
Okay, great. Teresa, it's been a pleasure. Someone from the Triangle, and catching up with you, and talking about Black Tech and HBCUs, and improving reading amongst our youth. Very commendable. It's needed, and hopefully, when a first or second grader picks up that book, it'll inspire them to let their creative juices go to work and invoke those 3 Ps. So,
well, I'm hoping so.
Okay.
I am definitely hoping so. And I hope to see you back in Chapel Hill soon.
Yeah, I was just there last week. Kind of getting my house ready to rent. So I still probably have one more immediate trip in the near future, and then after that, it'll probably be once or twice a year.
Oh, you plan? I'm in Florida right now, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in Fort Lauderdale at the moment. So, yeah. But yeah, it was great talking to you. Like I said, Black Tech, Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow, Leaders in Technology, available now. Pick up that copy, make it a birthday gift or a back to school present, something. But for Stop, Look, and Listen, I'm your host, LeTroy Gardner. See you next week. Peace and blessings.